Hey guys, welcome to the round 3 NRL betting trend video where I'm going to go through my early thoughts and tips for the games coming up this week. Also, what potential bets I'm looking at having, and also we'll look back at the betting trends, lines, odds of previous matchups between all 8 games coming up this weekend. But before we do, I just want to quickly recap round number 2 and how the season has gone so far. So we're through 16 games. Looking at the ATS betting here, so this is line betting, teams covering. Home sides have covered 10 of the 16 games played so far, and underdogs have covered 10 of the 16 games played so far. That's largely due to the fact that home underdogs have covered 5 of their 6 games, which is not completely unheard of. But one thing that has really stood out to me so far is underdogs that are half a point as an underdog or up to +6. They've covered 7 of their 8 matches. So small underdogs are performing very, very well. And if we look at the win-loss record or the money line, they've also won 7 of those 8 games. So it's been very, very profitable backing small underdogs. And then looking at the total betting, so far, 11 of the 16 games have gone under the total. In round number 2, 5 of the 8 games went under. Looking for any standout trends, games where there's a home favorite, only 3 of the 10 games in that situation have gone over the total, and both day and night matches have been going under. Also in round number 2, home teams went 8-0. They covered 6 of 8, and all the way up to the Sunday games, all those teams that won were favorites, and then Manly and Redcliffe both won their games on Sunday afternoon as underdogs. Now, looking ahead to the upcoming matches, because now that's what's most important to look at, is starting on Thursday night, we have the grand final rematch. Penrith take on Brisbane down in New South Wales. Penrith are 10.5-point favorites in the early lines for this matchup. In the grand final, when they met, Penrith were only at 3.5. Now, it's really important to know that grand final odds are kind of like their own thing compared to a regular season game. The bookies always blend the two teams a little bit closer. Last time we met down in New South Wales, Penrith were a 12.5-point favorite. So you can see that line's only come down a little bit since that last matchup. The total at 42.5 is 4 points higher than what it was for the grand final, and is the highest total between these two sides since back in 2021. 6 of the past 8 head-to-head have gone under the total as well. I'd definitely be leaning towards the under the 42.5 in this game. The Broncos definitely won't be able to get away with as many errors as they did last week against South Sydney. So for that reason, also I'll be leaning towards Penrith to be winning this game. And they've also won 6 of the past 7 against Brisbane. However, the away team has covered 4 of the past 5. So I wouldn't be really keen on Penrith covering the 10.5. That's why for the 2 lines, whether total points or handicap, I'd be leaning towards the unders for this matchup. Warriors take on Canberra. Warriors need to get a win on the board. Canberra at 2-0 so far this season. Warriors 7.5-point favorites. Last time they met, they were -6.5. So interesting, the line has moved up. Obviously, that's due to the low expectations around Canberra this season. However, they have exceeded those expectations already. The away team has covered 12 of the past 13 in this matchup, so that's a strong lean towards Canberra performing well here. 8 of the past 12 head-to-head have gone under. The total's 42.5 for this game, 3 points higher than it was last time they met. So very interesting there. Both these sides involved in fairly high-scoring matchups last weekend, and the Warriors do have a good record, winning 3 of the past 4 and 4 of the past 6 against Canberra. If this line got any closer to the 10, then I'd probably be taking that plus 10.5. I'm just going to monitor the line there. No real strong lean on the total. If it came down a little bit and was under the 40 mark, then I'd potentially consider playing the over, but I don't think it's going to come down that far. But later in the week, I'll be posting all my official bets. This is just the early thoughts. Roosters take on Rabbitohs. Interesting game here. Roosters are only 2.5-point favorites. Last time they met, the Rabbitohs were a 3.5-point favorite. That was round 27 last season. When they met with the Roosters as the home team, The Rabbitohs were a 2.5-point favorite for that matchup. Last season, the Roosters won both games by 2 points and then by 14 points and covered the spread in both of those. So I am surprised it's only at -2.5. Obviously, the Roosters coming off a loss last week to the Seagulls. However, Manly is playing really well, and the Rabbitohs really didn't show all that much in either of their two opening games. And you do have the line through both sides, as they both have played Manly and the Broncos. The home team has covered 8 of the past 11. Roosters have won 3 of the past 4, and the past 4 head-to-head have gone under. You can see they've adjusted the line from 43.5 last time down to 39.5. So for that reason, I'm not really keen on the under, but I do like the Roosters to be winning and covering that matchup. Bulldogs take on the Titans. No major trends for either side in this game. Bulldogs have won 2 of the past 3. The Titans won the last matchup as a 13.5-point favorite in the final round of last season. When they last met down in Sydney, the Bulldogs were a 1.5-point underdog. So they've moved a couple of points here into favorites for this matchup. And the away team has covered 8 of the past 10 head-to-head. It's going to be very interesting. Titans are a team where the form lines through them don't look really good whatsoever through the first couple of weeks of the season. They got hammered by the Dragons, who then got hammered by the Dolphins, who were previously well beaten by the Cowboys the week prior. So big margins in all of those games, and none of them reflect well on Gold Coast. So this matchup is not one that get too excited about. I'd be leaning towards the Bulldogs to be winning, but very, very interesting. Interestingly, the total is 56.5 last time these two sides met, and did go over that number with 64 total points. So at 43.5, Titans scoring potentially could be an issue, hence why I'm leaning towards the Bulldogs. Dragons take on the Cowboys. Cowboys 7.5-point favorites, total at 42.5. 5 of the past 6 head-to-head have gone over. It's only gone up 1 point from their last meeting, which had 64 total points. Cowboys have covered 5 of the past 6, and they've won the past 4 against the Dragons. So Cowboys should be winning this game. I'd like that line to come down just a little bit, but Cowboys should be too good. West Tigers take on the Cronulla Sharks. The Sharks are 11.5-point favorites. Last time they met, it was 23.5-point favorites back in round 19 last season. These sides, their past meetings, the Sharks have won 10 of the past 11, and they've covered 5 of the past 6. I do like this line again for the Sharks. Kind of very similar to their the Sharks meeting against the Bulldogs. That line was kind of half what it was last time they met the Bulldogs, and nothing had really, gone backwards for Cronulla or massively improved for the Bulldogs. So it's kind of a similar situation here. Tigers didn't really do all that much against the Raiders last week, and I think the Sharks win this game comfortably and likely cover that spread. Total at 45.5. Don't really love that number with these two sides, even though it has come down from their last meeting, which did go under the total, only just though by 1.5 points. I think that's slightly too high. Eels take on Manly. 9 of the past 12 between these sides have gone over, and the line has come down from their last meeting at 42.5 down to 41.5. So I'm definitely interested in the over in this matchup. Between two sides that are capable of putting on points. Parramatta do have a good record, winning 3 of the past 4 against the Seagulls, and the home side has covered 9 of the past 12. But this Manly side is very different this season. I expected them to improve, but they've even exceeded my expectations through their first couple of games. So definitely leaning towards potentially Manly winning this game as an underdog, but I do like the over 41.5 slightly more. Newcastle take on the Melbourne Storm. The Storm are only a 1.5-point favorite here. First game away from home this season. Kind of got out of jail big time last week, and I think that'll help the Warriors as well. The Warriors, if we just go back to that game, it's kind of one of those situations where they can really come through that performance and make a statement back at home, or it can be a little bit of a letdown of how they lost that game last week. They pretty much had the game won with 3 minutes to go and then lost. And it's interesting how that can mentally affect teams. But most likely, because it's a home game and a winnable matchup, they should come through that game and want to make a statement. But Melbourne Storm, 1.5-point favorites here. Last time they met, Newcastle. In Newcastle, they are an 8.5-point favorite. So I'm surprised that line has dropped that significantly. Melbourne have won 11 of the past 12 versus Newcastle, and I do like them to win this matchup. So I think that line is much too low. I'd have it closer to 4 to 5 points. The totals come down from 45.5 down to 40.5. What's also interesting with the total for this matchup, in the last 7 games between these two sides, the total points line, which it's currently 40.5, has finished within 6.5 points of the final score. So that's generally, it's generally not that accurate for every game. Like some games is going to finish, half a point or a couple of points either way, but not time after time. So I'm not really keen to get involved in the total because I think it's going to fall kind of on that number, but I do like the Storm to be winning, and I think they're a nice price for that. So just to quickly sum up my overall thoughts, I think Penrith should be winning this game, but don't really love them at the line. The Warriors Raiders game, I'd be leaning towards the Raiders to cover if we get a slightly bigger plus. I'd like it at plus 10 would be an ideal number there. I like the Roosters to beat the Rabbitohs. And then Bulldogs, Titans, slight lean towards the overs, and also Bulldogs to win, but not that much of an exciting game. Like the Cowboys to beat the Dragons with a good record against them. Sharks should win and cover against the West Tigers. I like the overs in the Eels-Seagulls game, and Storm to win against the Knights and cover the 1.5 spread. I'll be posting my official bets later in the week. This is just our first look, and I'll dive deeper into the statistics and the analytics for these matchups and, predict how the game's expected to be played and lock in the final bet. So make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications so you don't miss those videos when they come out.